Okay, welcome everyone. This session is going to be on elevating your faculty development with our presenters, Eddie Andreo and David Becker. And I'd like to hand off to them right now and let them take it away.
All right, Eddie. I'm David Becker. I work for Quality Matters. I'm a professional development specialist. So I kind of help our facilitators and participants solve problems. We provide resources for facilitators to support them in facilitation. But in the past, I used to be a system co-lead QM coordinator. I was a course review manager. I was also a facilitator, which is why I kind of forgot what my first title was, because I had so many of them. But I'll tell you a little bit more about kind of my past experience with QM and facilitation. So Eddie, I'll turn it over to you.
Well, thank you, David. So my name is Eddie Andreo, and I'm going to give you a little bit of background. I've been in education for nearly 20 years now. I actually started as an adjunct faculty member, designing and developing fully online courses, which actually led me to my career in instructional design. And I spent more than 14 years in higher education managing quality and online and supporting faculty training and development. Just about a year ago, I stepped away from my full-time career in higher ed to pursue a new career in corporate. And I'm now the Senior Learning Experience Designer for a global organization. And now I support the corporate training and development side. Now I still teach fully online courses, and I am the QMC for my previous institution and also the in-house certified QM trainer. In addition, I am a certified facilitator for Quality Matters and have presented a variety of workshops in person, online, and virtually. And we'll talk more about that as we go through this workshop today. And I encourage you to ask questions, because I'm sure you're here because you want to make those improvements or make those decisions on whether or not you should start offering those internally, or you should really offer them through QM.
All right, so
yeah, go ahead, David.
I was going to say, we thought in kind of thinking about, both of our experiences are somewhat different. We wanted to kind of share our backgrounds, our experience with QM, and especially with facilitation. As I mentioned, I currently work for Quality Matters, but before that, I used to work for Indiana University, and I was a system co-lead QMC. But my kind of hands-on in the job was really facilitating, managing course reviews, and serving as an instructional designer. So, when I first started with Indiana University, I was already a peer reviewer. I had taken the APP, but part of my job requirements was to facilitate the applying the Quality Matters rubric workshop at my institution. So I trained to be a facilitator, and then we decided to start doing official QM course reviews. So I trained to become a course review manager. It was really nice in that if you're not familiar with Indiana University, it's a very large system. There are about 7 campuses. So we had a facilitator located at each campus. Sometimes I would travel and facilitate workshops for faculty. As you may have experienced, sometimes it's nice for somebody outside of that, even that campus, to kind of come in and provide professional development, as opposed to somebody who may be there. Sometimes it's really beneficial for somebody who is there to offer that professional development. But we really offered only the Applying the Quality Matters rubric workshop to get faculty started in designing their online courses, applying the QM rubric through that design process. And then our individual centers for teaching and learning on all of the different campuses would work with faculty individually to assist them in designing their courses by, maybe answering questions, working together to, maybe design a page template, some small kind of assistive processes like that. So it was very kind of decentralized. Faculty did not have most faculty did not have access to, a large instructional design team who, faculty could essentially serve as subject matter experts, and the instructional designers would really build the course for them according to what they're looking for and what they wanted. Most faculty designed their own courses, and we were in that kind of support role for them. So Eddie, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, thank you, David. So I have a little bit different perspective. So I came from an institution quite a bit smaller, and I was essentially one of two instructional designers. And back in 2008 is when we really had a small presence from an online course presence, and just really getting started. Less than 5% of our enrollment was online compared to on-ground courses. So in 2008, 2009, it led us to really building an academic quality improvement plan as part of our accreditation strategies to improve the quality of online courses, because we were starting to see the writing on the wall that our online program will likely grow, even in spite of itself. So we became QM members. And as time progressed, we realized we were also going to move to a new learning management system. And that was really a good time to prepare for that big change, right? So the more we became the more we leaned on the QM membership, the more we realized that this was going to be a great tool to build this quality presence within our online courses. So I took the initiative to become a certified in-house facilitator, going through all the processes of completing the APPQMR and the PRC, and then everything else that it took to not only become a face-to-face facilitator, but also an online facilitator. And during that time, we made that migration to a new LMS, but I was, again, the only facilitator in which I trained almost 200 faculty members in a matter of 3 months. And at that time, it was a bit of a rush. We had a change in presidency. He was really trying to push not only an LMS change, but a SIS change as well. So we trained all of our faculty face-to-face, on-ground, and online instructors, or online, hybrid, and face-to-face instructors. And we actually got some of the best feedback from our face-to-face instructors. You'll be surprised how impactful that is. So after that training, we trained them in the LMS features, and then moved on to actually making that big switch. But in that time, we made decisions together through shared governance. We actually had faculty, instructional designers, even students at the table to support applying these QM standards to our courses. And we started utilizing the QM rubric to not only build our standard course template, as well as our standard syllabus template, which provided the instructors the control of what they were teaching, right? Not necessarily the design, because we taught them, let's make the design easy, the navigation easy, and make put the rigor in the course content. So they agreed to that. And that was in 2014. And shortly after, we had our accreditation visit in 2016. And some of the best feedback came from all of those advances that we had made, from faculty training to standard course templates, all of those things that were actually guided through this QM membership, and all of the trainings that supported it. So that's kind of where we are today. We continue to reevaluate our templates and those memberships. After we certified everyone in the APPQMR, we actually started certifying different individuals within each of the different departments as peer reviewers. And then we do some internal peer reviews, and then which eventually led to external peer reviews as well. So we'll dig into that a little bit deeper as we move forward.
Thank you, Eddie. If you were lucky enough to attend Cecilia and Dana's presentation just before this, you learned a lot about the different kind of pathways that QM professional development can provide. as you begin to implement your quality assurance plans at your institution. But one thing that we really kind of wanted to dig into a little bit deeper today are the differences between kind of that QM facilitated or that independent facilitated session. Content-wise, we're not looking at a lot of difference. But there may be some advantages and some benefits to both the kinds of facilitators that may help you achieve your goals, help you get some buy-in from faculty, and so on. So first, there is that independent QM facilitator, and they provide sessions really just for your institution or your system members. So as I mentioned, when I worked at IU, we were a system member. All of the different 7 campuses were under the same system subscription. So that was really nice in that I was located at one campus, but I could travel to another campus to offer a workshop. Independent QM facilitators are certified to facilitate those specific workshops. I'll kind of dig into a little bit later what those pathways are for certification to become a facilitator. But each facilitator goes through the exact same training. And again, these folks are internal to your institution or potentially your larger system. Then there's a QM contract facilitator. These folks are contracted with QM to facilitate public or dedicated sessions. They come from our independent QM facilitator pool. Actually, we look through, especially our online facilitators, we look through our independent facilitators' deliverables and see just how well they're doing facilitating these workshops, that specific and robust feedback that they provide to their participants to help them improve. And then if they're doing such a great job, we ask them, hey, would you want to come facilitate for QM as well? So there's kind of that extra step in becoming a QM contract facilitator. There's a good deal of experience in facilitating these workshops before becoming a QM contract facilitator as well. But for some, this may be a really great option because these folks are typically going to be external to your institution. So sometimes if having that external person gets you a little bit more buy-in, or could help kind of, I know sometimes when I facilitated, some faculty were maybe voluntold to come to the workshop. Most faculty, it was an optional thing. So sometimes institutional matters may come up, and having an external facilitator helps kind of deal with some of those topics from coming up because they can't answer those questions. We're really here to talk about QM. There are 3 primarily independently facilitated QM workshops. So these are 3 workshops that you can facilitate for your institution independently. That is the, as Cecilia mentioned earlier, that flagship workshop, which is the applying the QM rubric. This is a really great opportunity for faculty who are new to QM, who may be interested in becoming a peer reviewer, who may just be interested in learning how to apply the QM rubric to a course. They may not be in the design or improving stage just yet. They maybe just want to learn and get some hands-on experience. Then there's the Designing Your Online Course workshop, where faculty can bring their own course to the workshop and based on what they learned about the QM rubric, design and plan for specific course developments to meet QM standards. Then there is the Improving Your Online Course workshop, or the IYOC. Again, as Cecilia and Dana mentioned, this is a great workshop for faculty who maybe have been teaching online for quite some time. They've got a few courses under their belt, but now we're kind of starting to look at ensuring that courses meet quality standards. This really gives them a great opportunity to kind of step back and review their course from a different perspective than their own, primarily a learner's perspective. How does their course feel as a learner? What areas for improvement do they have? So in the Designing and Improving Your Online Course workshops, faculty walk away with a plan in place afterward, which is extremely helpful. So these are the primary workshops that you can facilitate independently. These are workshops that QM can facilitate for you as well. These are workshops that you can facilitate face-to-face, virtually, or online. So what we really want to start thinking about is what our quality assurance goals are currently, and maybe what they'll be in the future. And are there specific workshops that could help you achieve those goals? And think about modality too. Are there certain modalities that may be more beneficial now and maybe more beneficial in the future? But first, let's talk about a little bit about what it takes to become an APPQMR facilitator, and who better to really discuss that than Eddie, who is one of the facilitators for the facilitator certification courses.
Yeah, so again, thanks, David. I know I mentioned just a little bit ago that when we became members and realized this was going to be our next step and what we wanted to do as an institution, I began taking the path to the training path to become a certified facilitator for my institution. So again, I first took the APPQMR. Believe that I completed that fully online. You have a face-to-face, a virtual option, even online option now. I next took the PRC, which is the peer reviewer certification. That's a fully online, now 3-week course that is very, very rigorous. And I will tell you, you have to dedicate a tremendous amount of time to do really well. And it is facilitated by our QM contract facilitators. And then it led me to, as soon as I successfully completed the PRC, I then began taking the AOFC and the AFFC, which is the certification for both teaching the online and the face-to-face version of the APPQMR. Those are offered online and as well, and those are facilitated by QM contract facilitators. I'm now one of those facilitators, actually training the trainees, which is a real honor to be able to work with these individuals, to be able to see who has what it takes to become a QM certified facilitator. But let's talk about some of the benefits of facilitating these sessions to your own faculty. And that can include your IDs as well, or even administration. I was just at an institution this week where we had directors of online. We had a great group of instructional designers and learning experience developers. We had faculty in the room. And in that session, in this face-to-face session that we had, it allowed me as a facilitator to really make those connections with them, whatever their role is, and help them understand how they can utilize the features in the best way of QM. So this is what you, as a potential future facilitator, you can do. You can make those connections, and especially making it a bit specific about your institution, because you know these individuals, right? I would also mention that you have an opportunity to explain to the faculty how the APPQM workshop will support online quality and consistency. You've heard me talk about consistency. That's one of the beauties of Quality Matters and the QM rubric, is building this quality online course design that's consistent for your students. Because in the end, we're here to support student success. And how do we do that? Through quality course design. In addition, it'll allow you to actually work with the faculty to really offer sessions that are more convenient in their schedules. If you remember, we have online, we have face-to-face, and we have virtual options. So meeting them where they are is really important. Some of them can't just spend an entire day in the face-to-face setting. So they take that online version. So getting to know who your faculty are and their needs and what's most, desirable for them. And finally, being able to collaborate with faculty peers during the workshops to really discuss improvements at the department level. It's amazing when you make the connections and create those bonds within these workshops. You'll be really impressed and surprised how well those conversations go during the workshops, but also they continue. even after the workshops, because they now have the tools and the resources to be successful and to support each other as a department.
Absolutely. Speaking from my experience as a facilitator too, being an instructional designer, working in the Center for Teaching and Learning, facilitating that workshop for my faculty, it was a really great experience for me to get to know them, as Eddie had mentioned, but especially after that workshop had ended. There were some faculty that were very familiar with our office and what services we offered and how we could help them. Some not so much. Having a person from that particular office provide that workshop, who is then available to work with faculty after the fact, can be a huge step forward in getting some faculty kind of to engage with more of those services. I would frequently have folks come by, maybe not that day. It was a full day. They were a little tired. It was a Friday. But the next week they'd come back with a few more questions. They'd come back with a problem that they were having in their class, and they wanted to know how they could make some improvements. So there's a lot to say about having that independent facilitator in your institution, and the modality that you decide to offer for faculty, or what faculty are looking for. I did want to kind of. Oh,
I was going to say one more comment about modalities. We talk about the full day face-to-face on APPQMR. You do also have the option of splitting that up into 2 half days, because I know that is a struggle for some, again, trying to compact 7 or 8 hours. You can also spread that out over 2 days if that works better for your faculty. Sorry
absolutely. Oh, no. Please jump in anytime. And same to anybody in the audience, if you have questions, feel free to jump in or to put them in the chat. Oh, Eddie, you stole my thought. While I think about that, I did want to point out that if any of you who are currently present, if you have a full consortium or a system subscription, your subscription already includes a license to facilitate the APPQMR, the Applying the Quality Matters Rubric workshop. All you need is that QM certified facilitator. If you have a system subscription and you're new, if you're still within your first year, you have access to 1 free seat in either the APPQMR online or face-to-face facilitator certification. And one thing that I don't think I quite pointed out here, or we maybe haven't discussed explicitly, but there are those 3 modalities, but there are only 2 training courses for APPQMR facilitators. So that virtual option is kind of encompassed in that face-to-face training course as well. Then there are those 2 other workshops that you can facilitate. You can facilitate the IYOC, which is a very similar path to becoming an APPQMR facilitator. You can complete the APPQMR and then the peer reviewer course, and then take either the IYOC online or face-to-face facilitator certification course. This is kind of a direct path to becoming an IYOC facilitator, if that's really where you want to focus your attention, and kind of meet your faculty where they are. There is also an accelerated version of this if you already have an APPQMR facilitator, or you're going to become an APPQMR facilitator anyway. Once you are a certified APPQMR facilitator, you can take the accelerated version of either the IOFC or the IFFC. This is kind of nice for those who are able to kind of maybe complete some professional development relatively quickly. The traditional IOFC and IFFC, the accelerated versions are 2 weeks long. It's an open enrollment course, so there's no specific start and end date. You can start anytime you want. But you then have 2 weeks from the day that you start to complete the course. And you have 24 hours after you register to begin the course. So again, you have to have already been you have to already be a certified APPQMR facilitator in order to take the accelerated version. And the same is true for the accelerated DYOC online or face-to-face facilitator certification. There are open enrollment courses. Participants have 24 hours from the time that they register to get started in the course, and then complete the course within 2 weeks. I just want to give a little bit of shout out to Dana Linden Bridgette, who is one of our facilitators primarily for that accelerated IYOC online or face-to-face facilitator certification courses. So we've talked a little bit about the differences between the types of facilitators that you can have. Talked a little bit about modality and the 3 workshops that can be independently facilitated. So what I wanted to talk about is, what are your institutional needs? What are there specific aspects of online course design or quality assurance that are most critical for where you are in your implementation? So I encourage you to unmute. You don't have to turn your camera on if you really don't want to, and share kind of where you are. What are those institutional needs that you're facing? You're also welcome to share that in the chat. Eddie, I think, our experience was a little different in that it sounds like when you started to become engaged with QM at your institution, you're really kind of just getting started as an institution with Quality Matters. And some of you may be in the boat that I was in when I started at IU, in that they had already gotten started and they had a semi-plan in place, but then needed somebody to kind of full-time take over that and then go from there. So there's some differences in where you are in that QA implementation process that you really need to think about when we start to think about professional development and facilitation. Eddie, I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, I was going to speak to that because, again, I had mentioned we were less than 5% in 2008. And by 2010, 2011, when we saw a dip in as far as employment and market and the housing bust, we saw enrollment just explode. And we pushed the envelope to having in the 45, almost 50% online versus on ground. So we knew we had to be able to sustain that and support it in a way that online is based on word of mouth a lot of the time, and that student experience. And if the student isn't having a good experience, we'll know, because we'll see a shift in online back to on ground, or just students leaving the institution. So we knew it was going to be important for us to build really some consistency and some quality across our online programs. But again, it still was part of that academic quality improvement. It was part of accreditation. We knew we had that major shift. So by doing that, by becoming that certified facilitator for the institution, we were able to, again, continue to press quality across the institution with all of our faculty members and apply that to all of our courses. So it really made a tremendous impact. We saw student success and satisfaction increase based on those improvements and those consistencies that we built in through the guides of the QM rubric.
Absolutely. So not only, thinking about where you are now and, what are kind of the immediate needs that you need to address with quality assurance, we also want you to think about, what does that look like moving forward? Are those aspects of those institutional needs the same as you look maybe 6 months to a year down the line, maybe 2 years to 5 years down the line? How do those needs change? And how are those changing needs going to impact your decisions regarding professional development in its relation to quality assurance? So the next question that we have, and we definitely want to hear from some of you that are kind of thinking now, like, there's lots of different QM pathways. There's different options for facilitators. what method of facilitation do you think might be most beneficial to you now? And we encourage you to share those answers in the chat, or just simply unmute and share your thoughts. Something that I always kind of want to think about is, if you're just getting started, do you have the time to wait to train a facilitator to then get started with your professional development? Or might it be more helpful to have a QM contract facilitator train your faculty at the beginning while you have somebody else who's being trained?
Yeah, David, that's something that I can probably speak to as well. As a certified facilitator for QM, and I'm visiting these different institutions or working with them virtually, what I'm finding, I'm also asking, where are you in your process of, are you trying to just sustain? Are you in a major LMS migration that there's a big change coming for your faculty? So knowing where they stand, that will help them really make decisions on whether or not they can train someone in time, or they just need someone to come in and provide that type of certification or that training to their own faculty. Because again, that's why they're becoming members. That's why you are members, to be able to take the benefits or utilize the benefits of the training to support faculty and your quality initiative. Again, the saying, and it was an impact on one of my participants, helping to deliver on your online promise. That's why we're here, to support those. Some of you are just starting in online. Some of you have been in online for many, many years, and now you're just trying to improve where you are now and even grow, or you're growing and you're not sure where to take that next step. And this is your opportunity to do so through our partnership. So, and again, it all depends on the needs of your faculty. So as you're making that determination on whether or not you want to train someone or hire a QM facilitator, ask yourself these questions. First and foremost, do most of your faculty, do they teach online, or do they teach hybrid, or do they teach on ground and they have other duties as far as teaching that hybrid or online components? Do you have a large number of faculty that actually work at a distance? That may help make the decision on offering those workshops fully online or even virtually. And then also asking yourself, is it better to pull them away for really maybe an entire day, or offering the option to work on those materials over the 2-week period in the online class? Again, it all depends on who you want. Do you want that internal voice, somebody that your faculty are familiar with, or do you need that outsider's perspective to support this new initiative, especially if it is brand new?
And I'm going to share a question here in the chat, because what you just said made me think of something else that I think it's really important to highlight, is that we don't want to think just in terms of those 3 workshops. While those 3 workshops are extremely helpful for faculty, no matter where they are kind of in their design stage, when we think about that particular course design aspect of QA, there are some additional benefits to having that QM facilitator, especially if you're looking at virtual or online workshops. So for instance, you can definitely reach out to Nancy, our registrar, to kind of set up dedicated sessions. We recently kind of experienced, we had a group of folks from an institution who together enrolled in a public session. And as the workshop kind of progressed, we learned they had a kind of a very specific goal. And if that's something that we maybe would have known beforehand, we could have actually set up a dedicated session for them, so that they're all kind of working together to achieve this particular goal, but they all have this shared experience. At the same time, that can be really helpful in working in a public session with maybe a small group from your institution, is to see what are other, what are other faculty doing? What are other institutions doing? How do other people perceive these concepts differently or similarly to the way that I do and the way that we talk about it here at our institution? That can be extremely helpful, is to either have that very dedicated session. I know our RN to BSN nursing folk were very, very close knit and tight together. They worked very, very well in creating an online program, and they wanted their own APP workshop. Happy to oblige. Happy to give them that kind of dedicated experience, where it's just a group of colleagues that are from the same department or the same institution. It can be really, really beneficial zooming out to have others from other institutions to be there. So when we first got started, facilitating face-to-face, taking that day, feeding them lunch, that was the best way. That was the best way to get everybody in a room. Everybody was on campus anyway. That was our kind of campus culture, was that everybody was there. So having that face-to-face workshop for a day, bringing people in together, really helped us implement Quality Matters as kind of a standard for our online course design. And it also really helped prepare a lot of faculty for, unknowingly, that COVID-19 pandemic. We had a lot of our faculty who had already been through the APPQMR, who had been teaching online for some time before the pandemic occurred. So they were very prepared to not only go online, but to then assist and help their colleagues who were still, teaching face-to-face primarily. But as we grew, and as that quality assurance implementation went further and further down the road, we kind of started to discover we only had maybe 5 or 3 folks who were either needing to take the APPQMR or wanted to take the APPQMR who had not already, in a semester. So I would have, a facilitator at a different campus, reach out and say, hey, I've only got, 5 or 3 people. Can we still run this? Absolutely, that's fine. But then we start to think about other ways that we could offer that professional development that would better meet the needs of our faculty. Some actually preferred to take it online. And to be clear, they always had an option. They didn't have, it wasn't just take it face-to-face and that's it. But that was kind of the primary mode in which we offered it. So as time progressed, our needs and their needs changed drastically, to where we started primarily offering an online session that faculty from all campuses could enroll in. That was a really helpful way of kind of addressing those small populations here and there that needed to take the training. But if, let's say we have 1 on one campus and 1 on the other, and maybe 5 at another, sometimes traveling to a face-to-face workshop was doable. Sometimes that was feasible, sometimes not. So sometimes that online option really kind of helped alleviate the need for professional development, but the not so great need for that particular workshop.
And David, I'll expand on that too. Not only are we trying to meet the needs or meet them where they are of the faculty members, but you have to also consider the hiring cycle, where you're at in the year as far as bringing on new faculty member. And that may be a good reason to just offer a consistent workshop, especially for those new hires that are coming in. So we would see that, and that was part of why I became certified for my institution, to be able to pick up those new individuals, new adjuncts, maybe even new full-time faculty members, and be able to continue that consistency. And along with that, after having every single instructor go through the applying the QM rubric, we were able to move forward with even the designing your online course for those that were brand new, or the improving your online course for those that had been teaching at least a year or 2 or more. So there's that continuation of training that can be offered by your facilitators or by QM, again, coming in and supporting those initiatives for improving the quality.
That's a great point. And you reminded me too, something in as we were kind of talking and building this presentation and thinking about the session, I had mentioned that one campus of ours had it was more than 50%, and I believe it was both head count and credit hours that were online. So when they hired new faculty, they did, I think it was like about a week-long new faculty training orientation. By the end of that, they had actually completed the APPQMR during that training. I think they split it up over 2 days or something along those lines as part of that week-long training. So that's another way to think about it, as if it's something that you can incorporate into something that you already have for new faculty who are going to be coming in and teaching online. That's one way that you could kind of address that need or establish that kind of goal very early on.
That's a great point, David. We actually did a summer symposium where we offered the IYOC to faculty on a half day the first day, and then we did the remainder, or the second day. Those were the other conference sessions that we offered. So it was in combination with other things going on that had to do with accessibility and improving online quality from different perspectives. So yeah, you can incorporate that as part of that design, if you will.
And we've kind of touched on this a little bit, but we kind of separated these questions out intentionally because I think we have to think about each one similar to the QM rubric, right? We have to think about each one within its own context. So when we think about, what are those institutional needs? What are those things that we want to address? Do we want a QM facilitator or an independent QM facilitator to run these workshops, to facilitate those workshops? We also want to think about that modality. What's really going to work or be preferred by faculty at the moment? Are those going to be, asynchronous online workshops that they can figure out when they want to start, what session they want to sign up for? So it's not just, the 1 or 2 sessions that you may be offering or that your facilitator may be offering that semester. They have a little bit more flexibility. Or do they prefer, and would it be best to do a face-to-face session? My old supervisor always said, if you bring food, they will come. That has always been true. I couldn't recommend enough that if you do something that's face-to-face, to bring some food. But that may be a better modality for the faculty that you're trying to reach, or the faculty that that may still need to go through that professional development. Or as Eddie mentioned earlier, we may have a lot of faculty at distance. So is that virtual option the best option? Eddie, I know you had a.
That's definitely the carrot, right? Is you're always going to have faculty that are there because they want to be there, and you'll have others that are there because they have to be. And we as facilitators, we make the best of it, regardless of their stance on having to be there or not. But food always helps. It's a little bit more challenging for those in a virtual setting, but maybe if your budget supports it, sending them a coffee gift card, $5 or something like that, to get them out and during their lunch, just as a little thank you for doing that. But again, it's really it goes back to your needs. What are your needs? Where are you in your QA? Your next steps, your program. How do you want to attack this? Is this brand new for you? Have you been online for a long time? What is it? Where do you want to go? Those are a lot of those questions that we had to ask ourselves before we ever started training any of our faculty, because we didn't want to just offer training, right? That's not helpful. We had purpose behind the training, and that was to give them the tools to be successful in the development of their courses.
And I see there's a question in the chat from Samantha as to, does anyone that offers QM training in-house compensate their faculty for participating? And Mary Jo, you said that you just started doing that. If you don't mind, would you mind kind of maybe unmuting and talking a little bit more about that? Because we have a related point to facilitator workload that we want to kind of address. It'd be interesting to learn a little bit more from you, how your institution does that.
So this is all very new to us. Up until now, it's been a very internal training process. So our team has been trained on QM, but we've been secondhand passing the knowledge on to instructors. So we decided that there would be value in running the faculty through the QM workshops directly. And we don't have a large enough institution where it makes sense for us to offer the QM workshops in-house. So instead, we decided to register the faculty individually as they teach a new online course into the workshops. And so concurrent with that, we've also redone our development contracts with the faculty. So we've really implemented a lot of the QM standards into the contract language itself to basically really encourage the faculty. We are tying contract payments with them completing certain development milestones as they go. And literally we've just started. So I don't have too much in terms of how it's going. You can get back to me in 6 months, but we are hoping that it will really encourage faculty to go through that training and to really improve on the quality of the courses that we have.
Thank you so much, Mary, for sharing that. One thing that we really want to think about too is not just that faculty time spent during the professional development, but the facilitator's time as well. And I know that Cecilia and Dana talked about this a little bit in their session, but especially for an independent facilitator at your institution, we want to think about workload and whether or not this is something that's part of that individual's kind of essentially their job duties, or if this is something that we're asking them to do outside of all of that. When I facilitated, that was part of my job. So it was kind of nice, a little bit nice to take some time after facilitating, for a full day. But we really want to think about the time spent, especially for online facilitators, and whether or not that is something that you want them working on during the day, or if that's something that they would need to work on after hours. We highly recommend, if that's something that you're going to pursue, if you're looking for an independent facilitator, that potentially be part of their job duties, if that's something that they work on as part of their work, and not something that you ask them to do after hours. Mainly because if that person is facilitating, it's a lot of work, but that person is likely going to receive questions from faculty after the fact, that person may already be an instructional designer, that person may be a faculty member. So we also want to think carefully about who we want to be a facilitator if we want to have independent facilitators. So Mary, thank you so much for kind of sharing that kind of experience with kind of incentivizing your faculty to participate in QMPD. But definitely, as we think about how we can meet our QA goals, how do we want to ask that facilitator to share their time?
Yeah, David, I would agree with that balance, because it is quite a bit of a workload. I was going to circle back on the offering, the stipends. So we did offer stipends for faculty, but it was, again, part of the symposium. So it wasn't, if they completed the training and then they attended the symposium, then they received the additional stipend. And usually that was either through grants or not necessarily from a budget perspective, but yeah, we would try to incentivize them to attend along with the food.
So I know that we are at time, but in thinking about all of these different questions, then I'd like for us to think about, what are there specific workshops that would meet your faculty's needs now? We often see folks, send faculty through the APPQMR who that may not be what they need. If we're looking at designing new online courses, the DYOC is going to be your best bet. If you've got faculty who already have online courses, your IYOC is going to be your best bet. So think really intentionally about those different workshops and what those address and how they can help you in your QA implementation. Yeah, well, thank you all so much for coming. If you'd like to reach out to us after the fact, I believe you can find our contact information in CVent, or else I can put our contact info here in the chat.
That would be great, David. Thank you both so much, both of you, Eddie and David. That was some excellent information. And thank you to all who attended. And I just want to put in a little plug that office hours for implementation start now. So as soon as I stop this meeting, I'm going to head on over there, and I encourage anyone who's interested in asking questions or just to observe what's asked to join us over there. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.